to nail it down, because if we nail it down, then we can do everything else without having it be this, well, except for this one place where you guys veered off.
Mm-hmm.
And it does seem like there's some of the nomenclature is getting in the way, like we were discussing, like theoretical value means or genetic gain versus, I can't remember what the other phrase was. It's what he was talking about in the lecture.
Was it the French?
The results of selection or something like that. Yeah, so there's the genetic gain, and then there's the results from response to selection. Yeah, that's what it is. And so there's one or the other. So I don't know. It's confusing. I mean, it's already a subject that's going to be really difficult, and then there's a lot of other confusing parts. Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anybody else have any particular feelings after watching the lecture on Monday and after all the work we did on ALA 15?
I wish we would have known what exactly we were supposed to do, because I think doing it that way would have saved a lot of time.
Yeah, I was thinking we probably could have saved maybe like 12 hours worth of work.
Yeah.
And we would have done it correctly.
Yeah.
So right now in my brain, I haven't gone through and physically done the changes. Has anybody?
No, there's not. I haven't had time to do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering. Well, maybe I'll suggest them. What do you guys think about suggesting to them that if we go back and redo ALA 15 and submit it, that'll make his grading easier, and then we also. The important thing isn't so much that we get the better grades, at least in my mind, it's that we understand what we're doing so we know how to do it right. Or do you guys want better grades?
I don't have time to do all of this stuff and extra work. Like, we have 3 more assignments and a final to write, and that's really all that I can commit time to. It'd be nice to get a better grade, but like it's not going to happen in April for people that work in agriculture.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up, Cassandra, is it sounds like we have to know what we were doing in ALA 15 so that we get ALA 16 correct. So then it doesn't snowball into screwy stuff, and nipping it in the bud early is kind of where I'm going. And then with the added reward of, hey, if you go back and just redo 15 with a lot of the work already done, maybe it would only take a couple hours worth of work, and then we would know what to do correctly. I may be wrong, but that's at least what I'm thinking. Yeah. I'm not a glutton for punishment. I don't like doing more work than I have to, but I really, really would like to be certain that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, I may be wrong, and maybe we can forge ahead with 16 and get it all right, and we'll be good.
Like I said, I started it, and I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's doable without redoing 15.
Okay, and I'm relying on you guys because I've been working on my presentation, and I'm just happy I was able to sneak in listening to yesterday's lecture.
He also seemed to go through 15 pretty clearly, so
yeah.
We could also go back to that lecture and look at that if we need to.
Well, I'm going to do that, and I think I'm going to walk through 15 on my own just to do it. I'm trying not to just be self-centered. I'm trying to think of everybody, spread the pain. I mean, make sure everybody knows. In the end, is it really terribly important for us to be able to master this? I'm not 100% sure of that either, so I'm using you guys as my sounding board. like taking 2 exams. Maybe that was a dumb idea. I submit that maybe the better choice was to do it this way.
Yeah.
Wow, nobody's arguing with me.
Too tired to argue.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow is going to be a massive snowstorm coming through the area, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to jump into class and make it. I may have to ditch right after I'm done with my creative component, but I'm going to try and go and say hello to Dr. Beavis at least. And Emily, one thing that did you go over the operations methods for 523? Have you looked at? I think it was lesson 8. You went through all that, right?
Yeah.
For operations management.
Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to talk to Dr. Beavis about, because that was the one where he had prepared the presentation.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
It was if it's ever been taken into account, because remember the columns of zeros and ones, and they're supposed to represent different alleles or different traits or something, whatever you assign that value to.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if anybody's ever thought about, the overall capability of the plant might be less than all those traits in optimal, how would you call it, optimal expression, right? So each of those traits could be given a value of, say, like 0.2 or 0.3 at their optimal expression, and it may be that if you're looking for, 10 traits, that they add up to 1.7, and you only have 100%, so you can't have 170%. And then, of course, you get into the idea of what would it be like, epistasis, where one can interfere with the other. Okay, so we get this trait to work at 100% efficiency, but it reduces another. I didn't know if those kinds of things were taken into account, but
Yeah, I'm not sure. He didn't really.
yeah, it wasn't covered. That's why I was going to talk to him about it, but I thought it was an interesting idea, and I thought I'd share it with you all. Please don't hurt me.
Yeah.
Well, it's something that, if we're going to, how they've kind of been pushing that this might become an engineering field or more engineering oriented. One of the things I think they might forget is, what's the capacity of the system? You may not be able to do all things all the time. And a lot of the reading, or at least a lot of the stuff we've been taught through the different classes over time here seem to be like, the perfect plant can do everything. We just need to get to that, and I'm not entirely certain that that's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, so are you good in 523 otherwise?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just waiting to see what our next assignment is.
Yeah, I'm caught up to Thursday, so thankfully I was able to do that. This weekend was quite the haul between those two classes and the presentation.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this next few assignments in both classes are more easygoing.
Well, from my experience, and anybody else can chime in if they want, after this semester, I can't think of a previous semester that was even close to this crazy. The next closest class that was even remotely this difficult was 524, and I didn't find it to be nearly this bad, so.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. It was time consuming, but it wasn't like, I don't know. You at least understood it after a few hours working on it.
Yeah, well, and I'd say, time consuming, I mean, I was within that 10-hour a week range for that class, or less. 7 to 10 hours a week between the 3-hour classroom time and then working on the homework and that. So that was reasonable.
Yeah.
I calculated it out to some degree, and I'm spending anywhere from 15 to 20 hours a week just on 528 alone.
Oh yeah.
Between lecture and homework. Yeah, it just is a very demanding class.
Yeah, they should put a warning label on it, not to take other courses with it.
Ah, there's Dr. Beavis.
Hello.
Just to warn you, I am joining via phone while I'm driving down to Ames, so
Okay.
I won't be able to see anything.
Well, how's everyone doing?
Good.
A little frustrated that ALA 15 didn't quite go the way it was supposed to.
Did you have a chance to look at the classroom discussion on Monday?
I've listened to it, but I haven't been able to sit down and do the changes that you showed.
No. Okay. Well, it's it's just a what's the right way to say it? It was a branch point kind of early in the process, and the branch point it was understandable when I went back and looked at the class notes, and so it's not a big deal. At least in terms of grades, it's easy to fix, and it's easy to fix in terms of your understanding.
Okay, that's more what we were discussing that a little bit before you get on here. Is I was a little worried that maybe that by going off on a tangent, we may have mislearned something or applied things incorrectly.
No, instead of having a column of plus 8s and minus 8s for your genetic variability, what you would have is a column where you sample the normal distribution with a standard deviation of 8. So it's just it's a minor change in your Excel spreadsheet or in your R code. It's just a very as I say, in terms of carrying it out, it's very easy, but it's kind of important to realize that if we're not simulating any of the genetic loci, then
Sure.
what we're really simulating is the genotypes of the individual, and just understand that there are genetic loci segregating underneath all of that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to ask, is it possible? I don't know if anybody did the R code, but that sounds. I'd like to at least see an example of the R code for the homework, so I could understand how to do it in that regards too.
Yeah. I have our code I have our code that I use. I didn't use it for the homework, but it's our code that I've used in the past. You have to sort of really think hard about what's going on with the R code, but I could certainly make it available if you like.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Well, if it's that hard, maybe the spreadsheet's better then. But
yeah. It's sort of all the same principles, but when they're if there's I don't want to say this. The R code that I've used in the past has been for linkage groups, and so the trick is to get all of the genetic loci on linkage groups, and then to designate what's the recombination rates between those genetic loci. So those are kind of the hard parts of doing ALA 16 if you use R code.
okay.
And if you're back at ALA 15, 1.5, you don't have to worry about any of that sort of stuff.
Sure. Yeah, and I was thinking of the R code for ALA 15 in that regard.
Okay.
Just as a kind of a compare and contrast with Excel.
Okay. Yeah, I'll see if I can. Well, I don't have R code for ALA 1.5, but I could generate it pretty easily.
Okay. Yeah, I'd appreciate it. Or if any other student used our code and wanted to share it, if that's just dabbling curiosity, not necessarily anything
Yeah.
that is super important.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the way the R code would work is it would be inside. You'd have loops inside of other loops, and so you'd have to sort of the design of the R code is that at the outer level, you're going to say, well, I'm going to first of all generate data for the first environment and the first block within the first environment. And then I'm going to, within those two loops, I'm going to do a bunch of lines, double haploid lines. And so you just have this loop that said, okay, generate however many double haploid lines. So that means go from 1 to n double haploid lines, and then within that loop, you'd say the phenotype is, or if you prefer, you could just say the genotype is going to be equal to something, and then the phenotype is going to be equal to that something plus another random component. And you just go, through the loop, and then it wouldn't step out, and you go to the next loop. Now, sometimes if things change as you go from environment to environment, then that becomes a little bit more tricky, because that means you have to put if-then kind of statements in there. If I'm in environment 1, I want this to happen. If I'm in environment 2, I want that to happen. So, but those are sort of simple ways of thinking about it. Now, that's not a very efficient code, but it's easy to understand that. The efficient code is actually done using matrices, but
okay.
Yeah, I won't go there for that.
Okay. And while we're on R, one question I had that I didn't see an answer for in the discussion was doing fields nestled, or not nestled, nested within cooperators by locations. And I wrote that as cooperator, field, and then times location. And is that correct?
This was ALA 14?
ALA 15.
Oh, ALA 15.
I think it's question 9 or question 10.
Okay.
When we run the ANOVA.
Right. Well, so remember, the first thing to do is to just to break it down into the smallest units first. And so, look at your individual families in an individual environment, and do those first, and then start bringing them together.
Mm-hmm.
And then say, okay, now I'll combine across families. And so I have lines within families, and by environment. And I don't remember, did we go to multiple environments in ALA 15?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you had us replicated.
Okay.
We had two replications per location, and then you had 2 sites.
Yeah. Okay. And so there's 2 sites, and so then you would also combine across sites. And you're right. There's each replication has a full set of lines. Okay. And each set of lines is usually grouped by family, because you don't want the confounding of families with pieces of ground. Or the other way to say it is, you don't want competition between members of different families. Now, there's not really a good way to do it, but you could sort of think about families as whole plots, and then within the families you have split plots. Okay, so that's and then all of that, those whole plots are nested within a replication. It's also possible to block the other way around. You could say, well, I'm going to make sure that my piece of ground is going to be replicated, is going to, how's the right way to say that? My piece of ground is going to have one set of treatments to it at the split plot level. Okay, so that means a set of lines within a family.
Yep.
And so now that piece of ground, how do I make sure I'm not confounding that piece of ground with the fact that I have, one family on that piece of ground? And then I go to another piece of ground and I have another family, and that's another whole block or another block, or if you want to. But it's an incomplete block because it doesn't have both sets of lines from both families.
Right.
And so since that's an incomplete block, you have, if you recall back to when we started out, you have a couple of options. You can use an augmented design where you have enough checks thrown in there that you can say, well, checks should not change as I go from block to block. And if there is any change as I go from block to block, it'll show up in the checks. Okay, because that'll be, the checks should not change. Their values should not change, and if they do change, it's because they're on different pieces of ground. And so you can remove you can use that as a block adjuster. The other way to do it is to use what are they? It's not augmented. It's now I've forgotten the name of the term. And a lot of people do this. What do they call these designs? It'll take me. I'd have to go back to our beginning notes because right now I don't remember the name of the other design. But it's another incomplete block design where you don't use checks, but you make some assumption about your set of lines representing a random sample from some particular the same set of possible samples, and then if they're all possible samples are supposed to be equal, then I almost had it. The rows and the columns should, or the rows and the ranges in the rows should not change as you go across the field, and the only reason they might change ranges and rows as you go across the field is not due to any genetics. It's due to the field plot or the placement in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And I've forgotten what that, or I almost had it, but it didn't quite pop out. Maybe somebody else. What's that?
Is that P reps?
I didn't hear you.
P reps. I don't know.
EX?
No, P. P for Paul. P reps. I don't know.
P for poor reps. Is that what you said? Boris?
Yes.
I'm not following.
I'm at a noisy place. That's why. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't remember it being called a P reps. In a minute, it'll bother me enough. I'll get up and look it up. So, yeah, I'll look it up. But it's another design, and once I say it, everybody will go, "Oh yeah, I know what that is."
Yeah, and I'm just more concerned that I'm writing the R code correctly, so I'm getting the right result. So maybe I'll post it on ALA 16.
Oh, I see. And so you're more interested in the analysis of variance, and you want to know the model is correct.
Yeah, because I used cooperator, which is the name for the region,
Yeah.
and then I used the colon function and then field, so that I had my fields nested in my region. And then we were supposed to take that times the location is what it was listed as, and I think the location was the rep or I can't remember anymore. Anyway,
confusing early 14 and early 15. You are confusing early 14 and early 15.
You're talking about applied learning activity number 1.4.
Yes.
I think I'm talking about 1.5, question 9 or 10.
Yeah, so there was no cooperator in that early. We had the families and line within families and 2 locations.
Yeah, there's just a second location. There's no cooperators or anything like that on ALA.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like I said, I'm driving, so I can't. I'm just doing it from memory.
Yeah.
I just remember it was the way I set it up was the nesting was with a colon, and then I used times, and then that third variable, and I wasn't sure if that was correct or not to get the result that was asked for.
Whether or not the R code was correct. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to bring that up.
Right. Yeah. So you have lines within families, and then of course that's that's nested. But then that nesting itself is actually interacting with environments.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like it.
Yeah. Okay. And how to translate that into R code, I can take a look at that. But yeah, so you have families that are interacting with environments, and you have lines within families that are interacting with environments. Yep. And the replicates, of course, all they're doing is providing, they're blocks again. Okay.
Yep. And yeah, I'm sorry if I'm not totally clear.
Yeah.
But
And so, they might be used, the replicates within environments may be useful to tell you something, whether or not the environments themselves are. Again, environments are kind of like a whole plot, if you think about split plots designs. And so as you go from one environment to the next, those are kind of like big whole plots. And then there's all kinds of stuff that happens within those whole plots, which is the families and the lines within the families.
Yep.
Are there other questions? So for ALA 1.5, I'll keep an eye out for the model. The important thing is to write out the model, and then it's of secondary importance whether or not the R code was done correctly.
I have a couple questions about ALA 16, but I also want in that simulation module, a lot of the files we don't have access to yet.
Which simulation module now?
The one that you just opened up to us.
All right, so it's a module that's within, and it's ALA 1.6, is that correct?
Or the selection and genetic gain, sorry. Okay. That one, yeah.
And so you can see my screen, is that correct?
No, not right now.
Okay, let's share the screen, and then we can make sure that things are. All right, so selection and genetic gain. Now you're saying some of these things are not available to you, is that correct?
Yeah, like if you click on it, I think it's the heritability Holland.pdf, that and the 3 documents below it.
It says it will download it. For me, it's downloading, so that worked. Standardized selection differential. The file. Oh, so that one's gone. That's good to know. Let's keep trying here. But some of these things disappeared out of the folder. So the Mulison one, is it no longer there? It's still there.
I haven't been able to.
Okay, that one came down.
When I click on it, it says the file is part of an unpublished module and it's not available yet.
Wow, let's see. That's interesting. Let me see if I can go to a student view and see what happens. All right, so modules. If I do Mulison, it says save. It says it downloads it. Huh, so you can't get to it though, huh?
No, and I just tried it again. That's weird.
Yeah, I can't either.
And when I tried to download stuff today, I could get the E module and one of the other supplement reads,
Yeah,
but the rest of them were locked.
Yeah, I think it's the notes and then the Hansen heritability. Those two you can download.
You can get those two. Huh. Well, let me see. See if I can figure out what this, because this says that it should all be there and should all be available. Is there some other trick that I can't see? Differs, Hansen. These are all got green arrows on them, so they all should be accessible. Huh. I wonder if it has something to do with that one that is not behaving correctly. So that's selection intensity one. I wonder if I have another selection intensity one that it's trying to link up with. Is that details for selection intensity? Well, let me see if I can put those details for selection intensity in there. And if that fixes it, maybe it's just because there's something in there that has a broken link, and that broken link excuse me. Let's edit this. Delete that. That should work now, and let's see. All of these others should work too. We'll save this. How to Well, let's see. Why don't you see if you can download them now? Now that that link is no longer broken.
It's still giving the same message.
Huh. And that message is what is it exactly?
This file is part of an unpublished module and it's not available yet.
Part of an unpublished module. Now this module is definitely published. Publish it again.
Oh, the details for selection intensity file downloaded.
Okay. And what is the heritability for Holland? Does not?
Yeah, that doesn't. And then the other two PDFs at the bottom.
Okay. Well, let's edit it and do what we just did. Get rid of it and bring it back. So and let's see, Lewison doesn't work. Let's try it again. Deckers doesn't work. Nail 16 does work.
Yeah, that one works.
All right. Let's see. Go back to the module. Make sure that there's nothing funky with the module. It says that it's published. And that one says it's published. Can you get now?
It's still doing that.
That's okay. So this is now bigger than I understand. So what I'll have to do is go. I wonder if, because I've got this thing called there's two places where this exists. One's called genetic gain, and the other one's called selection and genetic gain. And this the genetic gain is from previous years. And what I can do is I'll try to clean it up. Let's see. I'm going to delete this whole thing. So that you shouldn't be able to see that one. Now, did that help free it up?
Yes, now it's working.
Okay. Yeah, so it was hanging around from last year, and it just needed to get. It was probably confused. It was pointing to two different places. All right. Interesting. All right. Let's see if I've got any more of those things hanging around. No, I think everything else is just this year. Okay. Well, there's resource allocation, so I can probably get rid of that one because that may end up having some pointers at some point that it'll confuse it. All right. Any other questions? Thanks for bringing that up.
Oh, you're welcome. I was going to ask about ALA 16. So
Okay.
we have, for the first question, the crosses are derived from 3 inbreds and a single hub inbred.
Yeah.
What is the difference with the hub inbred and the other 3 inbreds?
Now let's make sure I get to the right thing here. Selection, genetic gain, ALA 16. ALA 16. All right. So in class, I mentioned this. There are companies that actually, they're usually small companies, and at one time, corn breeding companies. And at one time, they would have some particular line that was used extensively in the industry. B73 was a good example. And this was all back kind of before patents. And what they would do, or there would be some line that nowadays what they'll do is they'll negotiate for access to a line. And so, for example, there are some, in soybeans, there's some lines that are really good that came out of the breeding programs that Syngenta took over. And I can't remember if that was Asgrow or who that was. But anyway, companies negotiate with each other all the time for a line. And so, we can negotiate, or anybody can negotiate with Syngenta for some line. And then what they'll do is they'll take that one line and they'll cross it to a lot of other lines, okay? Because they're just trying to improve, if you will, either the hub parent or one of these others by using this hub parent. So some people also call these networked breeding crosses, where there's a handful of lines that are used extensively. Okay, and so they get used by breeding with a lot of other lines. Okay, so the other way to think about it is that somebody has an elite line within their program, and they just want to, make incremental changes to that elite line, and so they'll cross it with a lot of things. But it'll be used in a lot of crosses where all the other inbreds, so all the other lines themselves, they're not going to be crossed to anything else. They'll be used in one cross, but no other crosses. So that's why it's referred to as a hub parent. You can think about it as in your pedigree as, if you in the pedigree diagram, this thing will be crossed with lots and lots of other lines. So it'll have a lot of arrows coming out of it. And because there's a lot of arrows coming out of it, it looks like it's the hub with a lot of spokes coming out of it. Now, other than that, all we know about it is that it's got these 6 loci with, genotypes. It's been fingerprinted. Actually, of course, if it's an elite line, it'll be fingerprinted at a large number of loci, maybe 10,000 or more. But we're just going to look at 6 of them. And so we know that these are the 6 loci that we're going to look at. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we're going to have this hub parent cross to inbred 1. And at locus 1, all of the children are going to be GG. because they're not different. And hub parent crossed to inbred 1 at locus number 2, all of the doubled haploids, all the children that come out of that, are either going to be CC or TT, and they're going to occur at equal frequency or close to equal frequency. And at locus number 3, that cross is only going to produce one kind of genotype. In locus 4, there's going to be 2, and 5, there'll be 2, and locus 6, there'll be 2. Okay, so that's basically what I'm trying to say. And then when hub parent is crossed to inbred 2 at locus 1, well, there's going to be 2 kinds of DHs. There'll be some that are GG, and the other half would be AA. And at locus 2, there'll be CC and TT. In locus 3, they won't be different. At locus 4, they won't be different. In locus 5, they won't be, or they will be different. And at locus 6, they won't be different for that cross. So there's only 3 crosses basically, and there's basically three families of doubled haploid lines.
Okay, so the first family would be the hub parent crossed with inbred 1.
Yep.
Second family is, okay.
Hub parent with inbred 2, and third was hub parent with inbred 3.
Okay.
And then later, just to help confuse it a little bit further, there's a tester. Okay, and so you'll have, and I've thought about changing the tester or dropping it out altogether, but right now just leave it in. So the tester, if it's just like all of the, if it's just like something that's homozygous already, and it's not, you would expect there to be no difference, right? The tester and all of the families would be, if they're all identical to each other, then you can expect there to be no difference in the genotypes at that locus.
So we're going to simulate the hub parent cross with each inbred, and then
Yep.
throw in the tester afterwards.
Well, yep. You'll have to look at. It's not so much throwing it in. You'll just have to decide: is the tester going to be useful at that locus?
Okay.
Is it going to help reveal variability in the family? Okay, and so I've just got locus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then of course you have to look at the tester. So in this, what we just talked about was, let's see if we can pull that up. Where'd it go? There it is. So the tester is AA. And, in this first family, AA is that going to help reveal anything novel about that first family by hub parent by GG? Well, first of all, hub parent by GG is just everything's going to be GG. And then cross to the tester, you'll end up with everything that's going to be GA in that first family. Well, if everything's GA, that means there's an A effect and a D effect, but everybody's got the same effect. And if everybody's got the same effect, it's not really contributing to the variance, to the variability.
Okay.
On the other hand, the second family, where you have GGs and AAs segregating, then half of your children are going to be or half of the test crosses are going to be homozygous AA, and the other half are going to be heterozygous GA. So now you're comparing heterozygotes with homozygotes. And so that's where you have to say, well, what does that mean? That means that I have an A effect and I have a D effect. That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
So then, when we submit the assignment, do you want us to include our Excel file like we did last week?
Yeah, just so that it's, if there's something, if the answers are in, close to what my answers are, then I can look at it and say, well, where did things get off kilter? Maybe it's just a minor thing, or maybe it's a whole series of things that are. It's hard to tell from answers, whether or not the concept is there and it's just a minor detail, or is it, a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of concepts that are not right. So I have, as you can see, I have a worksheet that I use for this, and I, for question 1, I do that, and then for question 2, I start including all of these differences, all of these things. I just start setting it up like, well, I've got these families, and I've got these environments, and what's the proportion of phenotypic variability due to this family and this environment, and so forth. So I just try to get all this set up so I can access it in calculations down here. And I probably should, make sure everybody understands that this term in the bottom here, this sigma squared p, in this ratio, that represents the phenotypic variability on an entry mean basis. So that means you have to think about how many observations are going into each one of these within the environment. It's kind of what we went over in class yesterday. I was going to ask you all, so the online students are, except one of them, I think Lyle, although Lyle wasn't feeling very good yesterday, so anyway, the class, I could just, provide the class at 5 o'clock in the evening, kind of like the office hours tomorrow, and that would give everybody a chance to get there. The on-campus students will be busy at lunch, but then the on-campus students will be done with a seminar at about 5 o'clock, so we could do that at that time. And also next week this latter part of this week and next week when I'm traveling, I could do the classroom discussion later in the day. I could do it at like this time of day if you all think that would be beneficial.
I think that'd work for me personally.
Yeah, that'd work for me too. So tomorrow there won't be class at noon. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I can offer it at 5 o'clock instead of at, or at 5:15 instead of at noon. That's right.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is that with me doing my defense tomorrow morning, I was thinking about sticking around for class, but with the snowstorm coming from Minnesota, that might be good to give me a reason to get out a little early.
Right. Yeah, I was sort of watching that. Yeah, you may want to leave early regardless, but yeah. So if you show up and or if you decide to stick around till 1 o'clock before we leave, let me know, and then you and Lyle and I can deliver the class during the lunch hour. If not, if you're going to bail out rather than stick around and visit with Matt. So the guy who's here on campus is Matt Smalley. Do you know Matt? He's a vice president at Corteva.
I do not.
Or I don't think they call him vice presidents. Anyway, he's some kind of. Those of you who work at Corteva, do you know Matt?
Yup.
Okay. And so he's the one who'll be here on class, or be here for lunch hour, visiting with the on-campus students.
Well, I think that based on that, I'm going to plan on leaving after my presentation because I do not want to be in St. Paul at 4 o'clock with snow coming down.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But I think after I'm done, I may. Are you in your office in the morning?
Probably.
Okay, I think I may try and swing by just to say hello.
Okay. That'd be great. All right, so tomorrow I'll just plan to do this class at 5:15 or so. Boris, does that work for you? Oh, he's gone. Or maybe he's still there.
He looks like he left.
Yeah, it looks like Boris is gone.
So if we join Zoom through this link we usually do,
Yeah.
we'll be able to watch the class.
Or
Or
we can just participate in the classroom discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll plan to do that at the same time, 5 o'clock on Friday and Monday while I'm traveling. That means 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I just need to let family members know that I've got something else to do at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, that should work fine for me at least.
Okay. And I suppose I have to let Todd. Now, how do you guys get these things recorded? Do you record these?
There's a little record button when we log in down in the bottom of the screen.
Ah,
We can't do that though. I think it.
Or is it, yeah, that's right. Lawrence is doing it in a different media, isn't he?
Yeah.
all right. So I'll talk to. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll talk to Todd and see if I'm looking on here. Oh, there is a record button. Please request from the meeting host. Okay. Yeah. So somehow that record button. Maybe I can claim the host. Let me see if I can claim the host. Enter the host key to claim host role. Host key is a 6-digit number. So sign in to claim the host. Let me try one more thing. It may work out that I can do this. I'll just try it. Okay. It doesn't seem like it's going to let me do that. All right, I'll visit with Todd some more. All right. Doesn't look like I can, claim to be the host and then not subsequently record it. But I'll check with Todd, figure out how I can do that. All right. Other questions?
I think that's
I'm
all
good.
I have right now.
Not
Okay.
yet.
Not yet. Very good. Well, I'll look forward to seeing you all tomorrow after 5. Probably 5:15. Okay?
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
You bet. Drive safe.
Yep. Thank you. So what are all you guys going to do tonight?
Start building models.
Yeah. Fun.
Excellent. I'm going to be way behind you guys.
I'm just glad I asked a couple of questions, because otherwise I would have been doing this wrong again.
Yes, it seems like if you don't understand yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm with you. Yep. I wasn't thinking of the hub species necessarily that way either.
Yeah, because I didn't think I heard him use the term in class.
Once it was in regards to how I think Pioneer used to do their crossing and how it was a bit of a challenge having a hub system and how they dropped the idea, but he didn't necessarily say what it was. So yeah.
Yeah, and at first
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how exactly the crosses were supposed to work. That like it was a hub parent with an inbred for each of the families. Maybe I'm just slow.
No, I think that it's a valid question. I mean, sure, maybe we could have deduced it and done it right, but how many other ways could we have screwed it up?
True.
Why not just provide that information straight up? Whatever works. Made us think we asked the right question. Good.
We win.
And if you guys work on it tonight and run into problems, at least we have classroom hours at 5 tomorrow, so
Yeah.
you can ask more questions. And he seemed pretty cool with 15 being just a minor screw up, so I'm cool with not redoing it.
Yeah, I feel better about it than I did like an hour ago, so.
Believe me, I've definitely moved into total senioritis as of Sunday evening. After I got back on and you guys were like, no, we screwed this up, and I was just like, I'm done.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel comfortable with the model that I used, but
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, if anything, you might just be missing one component. It's essentially what I use too.
yeah.
So it's more than one of us.
Yeah.
Problem is that I don't think I'm very good at modeling.
Well,
Take that statement as you wish.
In the real world, you wouldn't necessarily have to do anything like this, though. There's lots of ways that you can just plug in the data that he puts into a calculator that would do it for you.
Yeah, I know. A lot of the people I know that are more pure mathematicians, I've got some friends who are PhDs at places like Ohio State, and that. And I'll bring up kind of like using JUMP, because the husband and wife team, the wife is a statistician and the husband's a mathematician. And she's all for JUMP, and he just cringes, and he's like, that's not teaching math. You don't learn anything. All you're doing is putting numbers in and getting stuff out. How do you know it's right? And I'm like, I don't care. Either you guys are doing the right job and making the model or making the programs correctly, or else we're all in trouble and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I have to say I'm a big fan of all of our programs at Corteva. Even if they don't always work all the time, they're a lot easier than doing it this way.
Yeah.
Oh, I can understand that, yeah. Well, that and the company, I was thinking about it while he was talking, and part of it is that what company wants to spend your time wasted on running through all this stuff, rather than having a program in place, you punch the numbers in so you get the answers, so you're doing other things that are more efficient.
Well, my understanding is that the biggest thing is that we understand how these things work well enough to like interpret and know if things are working properly.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
if you end up working for like a really low budget place, maybe you will have to go back and do it by hand.
That would be where I would.
Well, yeah, my dealing with super low budget, at least on my end, has been you just have very low expectations. So you're just doing a lot of LS means and maybe some 2Ts and you use JUMP because it's dirt cheap to have a license, and you just throw stuff in and say, hey, but you're not doing huge genetic studies.
My company is so cheap that on our iPads we use for in the field, they make us use a free Excel version, like an Excel
Use
not
numbers?
what
Are you using numbers?
in the field.
Yeah, like the Excel knockoff.
Oh, I can't. I don't know, but it's like it has
I have.
stuff.
My program is so cheap, we've used numbers, yes.
Is it free?
I think so.
Yeah, it was, and it's also kind of buggy and doesn't work well, and so we went back to pencil and paper.
Cool. That's
Nothing
That's just
savings like someone spending a month entering data manually.
Producing huge amounts of data, and it's not like thousands of entry points, it's more like, 400 entry points. So, that, like I said, small, low expectations.
Cool. Well,
And Cassandra, last night I got to see the Red Green show.
oh,
As in that was the show, the theater, the traveling show.
nice.
It was done well. You as a Canadian should be very proud.
wait.
Anyway.
No?
Red
Green show. It stopped. They stopped making it in 2006, but this is his fourth tour, and it's very well done. If you guys are got some free time, check it out. I suppose on YouTube would be the easiest way. It's free.
I used to watch it like every lunch hour in the summer when I was a kid.
yes.
Oh, awesome! Why is Tyler on 3 times?
I also noticed
on
that.
Oh, now he's down to 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife and I used to watch Red Green every night before we go to bed. Kind of like the evening news, but happier. It was fun. It's a good show. But
who's sticking around to build some models tonight? Ooh. Yeah,
all right.
just digging in, so.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like it's going to be, I'll jump off and I'll just be a distraction, and I'm just about the games, and I'll do my presentation on and watch.
Right on. Well, safe travels and good luck with your defense.
Good luck.
Thanks. And I'm hoping I can beat feet fast enough and get back home.
Your ambition is admirable, Jacques.
Yeah, it's not ambition. It's called just trying to get done so I can be late. More ALA, damn, and it's done.
Mm-hmm.
I fully appreciate that.
So close yet so far.
So, yeah. So, anyways, best of luck to you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow night. If nothing else, I'll work on it with you tomorrow night after class.
Sounds good.
See ya.
All right. Bye.
I'll be putting yours. Is it quite similar to what we did last time?
No, but I can